It's episode 200, and more importantly, it's the first episode of 2025, the first episode of January, and that means Album of the Year season is over. However, there are 10 bands I'm going to bring you today that don't fit neatly into the categories that I normally cover. If you were subscribed last month, then you saw that I did the best thrash metal albums of the year, the best black metal albums of the year, and the best death metal albums of the year, and the best progressive metal albums of the year. But some bands just don't fit neatly there, and these records are 9 out of 10s. They definitely deserve to be recognized, so let's do that. Welcome, metalheads. I'm the host of Heavy Metal Philosophy and writer for Metal Digest, Jon Barbas, and we're here to celebrate great metal. I'm bringing you 10 bands that don't fit neatly into the categories that I normally cover. And also, this is episode 200, so I want to give out a special thank you to everybody that got me here. But before we do all that, let's do what we do best and shout out the best new metal. All right, these aren't in really any particular order. I think all 10 of these bands are great, with the exception of maybe number one. Number one really stands out to me, but the rest, it could fit in anywhere. There just has to be some sort of method to the madness. So without further ado, let's get started. Coming in at number 10 from Canada, Pest with You and Me at the End of the World, which is probably my album title of the year. I love that album title and I love this music. Lots of bands talk about blending genres, but most of them just switch back and forth. This one actually is a mishmash of all the genres. You can hear a little bit of everything here, from deathcore to drum and bass to black metal, even a little bit of pop punk. The thing that ties it all together is it's super technical and emotional. So I just had a great time listening to Pest this year, full of surprises, even upon multiple listens. Make sure you get it. Coming in at number 9, my fellow Georgians, Black Tusk with The Way Forward, sludge metal. Now, if you hear sludge metal from Savannah, Georgia, friends with the dudes in Baroness, in fact, Jon does most of their album art, you're going to have this certain expectation. But this band has their own sound, and it's carved by the aggression of their punk rock influences. Don't think the nice, artsy sort of sludge metal that you get from Baroness. No, this is a kick in the teeth with excellent melodicism to boot. High energy record here. It has this little interlude song that sort of breaks it up for a second, and then they just charge in again. I love the guitar work on this. The guitar solos have this sort of composed feel to them. They're not just chaos and look how much I can shred, but everything just ties together with this beautifully ugly tone. I love Black Tusk, and I'm so glad that I'm doing this episode, which allows me to incorporate some of these genres that I don't normally do, like sludge metal. Coming in at number 8, Connecticut hardcore band Boundaries with Death Is Little More. And I would say that 2024 is the year of hardcore. Hardcore had been rising for a while with bands like Turnstile and Knocked Loose. But it feels to me like 2024 is when they really made their stamp and broke through. And that's thanks to other bands like Boundaries. I love how as metalcore has gotten more and more pop, there's these other bands that are taking it back to the roots, hardcore. And this one is especially, as Jamie Joster would say, hard. There's a few moments of clean singing here, just enough to break up the pace, but the rest of it is neck-snapping fury. And it's not just the anger. This is heavily inspired by Dante's Divine Comedy. This is raging at the absurdity of existence itself, which you know is going to appeal to a big philosophy nerd like me. Plus, I like it hard and heavy, so Boundaries is perfect. Coming in at number 7, from Sweden, Throne with Excessive Guilt, hardcore once again. And this is one of those bands that's the, quote, exception to the rule. Why do I say that? Well, two of my more popular episodes. One is where I say that rap metal sucks. And more recently, there's an episode where I critique certain trends that I've been seeing in deathcore recently. And this is a band that you could say, well, what about Throne? And people would think that that would disprove my thesis, but I disagree. They are the exception, which by the very definition of the word makes them exceptional. The exception that proves the rule, because these sorts of bands are so rare. Why does this band make the cut? Well, as far as rap metal is concerned, I think they do because it's not a ham-fisted attempt to try to combine rap and metal, but rather you can hear that there is rap influences in the rhythmic and speedy vocal delivery, but he's not trying to be an MC. And the riffs are toned down to make room for the rapping, or it's not trying to be hip-hoppy with the guitars. These are hardcore riffs with furious and fast-spoken lyrical delivery. I absolutely love that. And as far as deathcore is concerned, I critique the over-reliance on the breakdown for the, quote, heavy part. Why isn't the whole song the heavy part? Why am I waiting for the breakdown for the heavy part? If you're telling me to wait for the breakdown, by definition, that must mean that the rest of the song sucks, or at least isn't as good. Throne, the whole thing is heavy, and I love that. Coming in at number 6 from Sweden, Tribulation with Sub Rosa in Aeternum. This might be my new favorite goth band. Speaking of genres that I don't normally cover, goth is one of those. Not necessarily a big goth fan here, but when I do like it, I like bands like this. And that's because of the black metal infusion into the sound. It still has that wearing sunglasses and leather inside sort of coolness that goth brings, the swagger, the groove, but the black metal gives it a tinge of evil and heaviness. This doesn't have that Scooby-Doo sort of spooky vibe. No, this is definitely dark and macabre, but cool rock and roll vibes to it. Absolutely love this record. Check it out. Coming in at number 5 from Denmark, Ioten with Kinship. I'd hazard a guess that this one is a lot of Heavy Metal Philosophy listeners' album of the year, because in those aforementioned episodes, lots of comments, where's Ioten? Where's Kinship? It didn't matter if it was the death metal episode. It didn't matter if it was the prog metal episode. Somebody was commenting that Ioten deserves to be on the list. And as we talked about with Pest, lots of bands talk about genre blending, but Ioten actually does it. Made this one super hard to classify, so that's why it's going in this episode. It has the triumphant sound of power metal, but it has the darkness of gothic doom and the heaviness and the energy of melodic death metal. It has the grand compositions of prog without being too pompous, so you could put it in any one of those lists. This was beautiful, like a barren winter landscape. My only complaint is some of the songs are a bit long, a couple of 10-minute plus songs. However, the excellence of this one merits the runtime. Coming in at number 4 from the UK, Swamp Coffin with Drowning Glory. This is a sludgy doom. When you listen to this, it sounds like the band poured their agony and suffering into it with the almost hardcore barks. Here we go again with the hardcore. It just is so furious. But the thing that keeps it from sounding hardcore is how thick the fuzz is and the droning of the guitars just churning through this morass of agony. The guitars thudding against the speakers. I really hope that this band gets some success off of this record, because this record sounds like not being okay. Coming in at number 3 from Indiana, Mother of Graves with the Periapt of Absence, Death Doom. And you don't have to worry about a sophomore slump from this band, they not only met the expectations following their lauded debut, they exceeded them. And that's because this band doesn't allow the slow BPM of their genre of doom metal to anchor their energy. The heavy parts of this are ferocious, and the slow parts are heart-wrenching. The vocals on this have this commanding and unique grit, but they're clear and articulated. And then there's spoken word parts that have the poetry that could only follow from suffering. Plus, guitar nerds, you gotta get on this one. The shredding on this is absolutely top-notch. I love me some Mother of Graves. Coming in at number 2, from New York, Better Lovers with Highly Irresponsible. I can't recall the last time I heard something this awesome from a, quote, super group. For those of you that don't know, this is members of Every Time I Die, the Dillinger Escape Plan, and one of the dudes from Fit for an Autopsy. Now, every time there's a supergroup, it's good because every member of the band is an all-star, outstanding musician, but oftentimes for my taste, it's too good. It sounds like, yeah, I get it, you guys are really good, but it lacks that hunger that a young up-and-coming band would have. This record from Better Lovers does not suffer from that problem at all. I'm shocked at how hungry and angry this sounds. Their debut EP was like a proof of concept, but this one is a statement. And hey, before we do number 1, I just got one thing I want to say to you. If you love metal the way that I love metal, then you're in the right place. You should join the Heavy Metal Philosophy community because that's all we do here. We break down the best new metal albums and we analyze the culture and the behaviors and the choices that are made in the metal community. So if that sounds appealing to you, then hit that button. Now let's do number 1. Coming in at number 1, one of my absolute favorite records of the year from the UK, Barbarian Hermit with Mean Sugar. Now, I love me some stoner metal, but if you've noticed anything about most of my picks this year, I like my music hard. I like it heavy. And oftentimes, stoner metal isn't really that. I often listen to stoner metal when I'm in the mood to chill. But this is the heaviest stoner record I've ever heard. I could not believe how heavy this record is. The vocals on this rumble in the speakers and they have this beatnik sort of swagger to it. I would have assumed that these guys were Southern the way that this one sounds. I am definitely shocked that they're from the UK. These guys sound like they eat collard greens and live on the mountain. Hard, man. They infuse traditional metal guitar harmonies with that pentatonic bop that stoner is known for. They've got their psychedelic bona fides, but everything's just so heavy. And if it's that heavy and it's that groovy, you know I'm going to love it. And hey, let's cap off AOTY season with a dealer's choice, shall we? Longtime subscribers know the dealer's choice is the segment that allows me to break the rules. Now, I don't normally cover EPs on this show, but dealer's choice allows me to break the rules and I can pick an EP. But not only am I breaking the rules there, this isn't even really a metal album. This is like an experimental, cinematic, avant-garde noise record. From Germany, we've got Insect Arc with Raw Blood Singing. And I don't even know where to begin to describe the sound on this. I could clumsily try to say that it sounds like the soundtrack to the creation myth of the cosmos, if that creation myth is a murder mystery. The guitars on here make more space synth sounds than they do chord progressions. There's spoken word poetry, groovy bass. It runs the gamut of emotions. This is the perfect album, EP I should say, for the psychonauts of you out there to sit next to your turntable and experience no other sensations of reality. And Hey, before we close the episode and the riff of the week plays, this is episode 200 of Heavy Metal Philosophy. And I just want to thank you guys for helping me get here, because there were times where it was a little bit hard, but your constant support has kept me going, has inspired me, has motivated me, has kept this fun. So I really want to thank you all. I especially want to thank those of you who have been here since the beginning, when I was pushing and trying so hard to get to 666 subscribers. And I really want to thank those of you who have recently subscribed. Much appreciated. And for those of you that are kind of medium, thank you too. I really appreciate it. More importantly, I appreciate you all watching and listening. Thank you so much. Here's to 100 more. I'm going to keep trying to improve this show and constantly bring you my best effort. We're going to bring the best new metal albums. I'm going to bring you my best analysis. And I hope that this time next year, my best will be better than it is now. So just thank you so very much. Enjoy the riff of the week. But most importantly, read philosophy, listen to metal. I love you. And go to the merch store. Links in the description.